Good evening. Welcome to the Town Council meeting for March 19th, 2024. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge the town of Edson is located on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral lands of the Niqua, Saulteaux, Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, Dene, Dakota Sioux, and the Ipitsisiwak Métis nations. We honor the knowledge of this land, the elders and youth which gather here, and our ancestors who have gathered here for centuries. With that, can I get a motion, please, that the agenda for the March 19th, 2024 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Go ahead, Councillor Chenard.
I'll make the adoption as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Chenard. Any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Can I get a motion, please, the minutes of the March 5th, 2024 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Go ahead, Councillor Bevan.
I'll make the motion the meeting minutes of the March 5th, 2024 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Bevan. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. We have no public hearings, but we do have a couple delegations this evening. And first of all, we'd like to welcome Don Mitchell, the Executive Director of the Edson Seniors Transportation Society, who will be presenting on the 2023 activities of the Society. Welcome, Ms. Mitchell, and I don't think I need to go through council procedures with you.
I would double check.
Yeah, you can just turn your microphone on there, and Steve will give you a hand with the computer.
Good evening, everyone. I've been practicing all day so that I get it right today, and I don't say thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to the presenter. So I'm gonna get this right today. So thank you guys very much for having me. This is our formerly known as the Edson Seniors Transportation Society. We've rebranded to Moving Edson and Area. Our objective today is to speak to you in regards to 1984 to 2023 to present. I'm going to give you the highlights of 2023, the ridership comparison from 2022 to 2023, and the financial comparisons, and then our 2024 priorities. So you'll see on the bottom a quote that I kind of chose. It looks like we've done quite a bit in 1 year, but really, everybody has to remember that this success started in 1984, and it's just it's grown to what it is now, and we are so grateful for those that came before us. So in 1984, this was the Edson Seniors Transportation Society, and we were branded, as I was saying, in 2023 to This Bus Is For Me. This rebranding is meant to be more inclusive. So that is why the me is in capital letters. In 1984, we had volunteer working board of directors and one full-time driver and then casual drivers. In 2023, we moved to a volunteer governance board of directors, which is very different than a working board of directors, as you know. We have one part-time executive director and a full-time driver, and then we have 3 part-time drivers now. In 1984, we had, we offered the wheelchair and lift accessible transportation services, but it was only for Edson residents 55 plus, though I am hearing that I think it started out as 45 plus and somehow in between my starting and it moved to 55 plus. I'm not really sure how that happened. Regardless, in 2023, we offered those same services, but we've now, again, moved it to be more inclusive. So Edson residents 54 and under can ride this bus with cognitive and or mobility challenges. The board is really fantastic that way. They really wanted to make sure that inclusivity was straight across the board for all Edson residents. In 1984, up until 2023, we were operational 37.5 hours a week. With our increased operational hours, we are now at 54.5. And the difference in ridership numbers, you'll see aren't great this year, considering the operational hours increase. However, I really need you to consider through all of this the 2023 wildfires that kind of put, that kind of hurt us a bit there. And our increased operational hours of service didn't start really until December, I should say. So now I think we'll move on to talk about the major events and highlights. So this was a fun one. And I think most of you, if not all of you, were there that night. And it was a ton of fun, right? So here's my favorite picture. And it really was a ton of fun. So thank you all for being there and supporting us and having such a great time. I would like to never have to talk about 2023 wildfires again. But it's significant and it's a part of our history. And so I feel that it's important I speak to this. So I have a wonderful board of directors. They are absolutely fantastic. And when the wildfires hit, we just did what we do. And I called the chair and said, this is what I've done. And she said, go and don't stop. And so we didn't. We just kept going. And so I need to say thank you to them. And I need to say thank you to our drivers. They went night and day for months. Councillor Chouinard, I believe, slept on the bus a number of nights.
Sorry, I couldn't get your clothes back.
I also need to point out the wonderful agencies that supported us and the people within them. So Tanya Byers is just amazing. Crystal McNerney, Yellowhead County, amazing. I did not say Councillor Positioning in this because in this role he was with Parkland Seniors Lodge. And he wore several hats and did fantastic in all of them. Megan Cox from AHS, she was bang on. Collar and Holdings, Breland Busing, Core Daycare, and GFL Environmental. They all pitched in, and I just want to say thank you to everybody. Okay, we're going to move on to happy stuff. So, 2023 strategic planning session. This was the first strategic planning session that that Moving Edson and Area has ever held. So we brought in really, really great people in hopes that the outcome of the strategic planning session would be just fantastic, right? We'd have bar none the best. So Jasmine Elniski came and she was a facilitator and she was really, really good. You all might remember Stephen Power. Now he was the 2023 Town of Edson Transportation Study Consultant. And so he knows Edson inside out and backwards. He knows the roads, he knows what's working, what's not working. So we brought him in as an expert, and the benefit he provided was amazing. He was really, really good. So here's a snapshot of this wonderful crew. There's the board, and there's our new branding, which they were brilliant at coming up with this. And this is them right there, just working hard. It was 2 days. They really did a good job. So to recap the busyness of last year, in January of 2023, we had our first ever financial budget adopted. We had our fundraiser in April. The wildfire transportation begins, and we received a really great donation from 100 Women Who Care Edson. Moving on to June, we had the 2023 wildfires and continued transportation there. We had our 22-year review presentation to find folks at that time, squeezed that in there. We continued with the transportation in July. And the 2023 Town of Edson Transportation Study was completed. So we were graciously asked if we would like to be part of that study, and we were really, really honored to do that. And so it was really good. We received a grant from Canadian Red Cross in that same month. In September, we held the strategic planning session. Corporate donations were received from Edson Custom Cruisers and Swift Oilfield Supply. A huge grant was received from Healthy Aging Alberta. So in October, the 2023 strategic plan was adopted, and Chair Gamoka and I attended the Healthy Aging Summit. It was the first one ever held they'd ever put on, and it was really by far the best conference that I've attended in 2023. It was really, really good. Transportation services were opened up to nonprofit societies and schools. This hadn't been done before because it was for seniors specifically, and the board really felt that all persons of all ages, if we're going to be inclusive, persons of all ages requiring services, we should be opening it up to that. So we did that, and yahoo! In November, we ordered the new mobility van. So, ridership comparisons for 2023. Again, please note the decrease in ridership and related revenues are due to the 2023 wildfires. We did pretty good, though. If you look at all those numbers, I'm pretty excited because our new technology equipment should come here pretty soon within the next couple of months. That is going to give a detail analysis of where we pick up somebody and take them to Tim Hortons, or we're taking them to the hospital. Like, it will just be so specific, and I'll be able to come back to you with these really cool analytics next year, I'm hoping. Reasons for travel didn't change too much. So it's really kind of about the same. What you'll notice is under worship. So when we opened up services, so late night Thursdays, of course, Saturdays and Sundays, we have a lot of people that really want to attend their services, right? In the religious denomination of their choice. And so we're pretty proud to be able to take them there. Total client trips, transportation boarding methods. Again, these numbers, they should have been higher, but we were busy doing other things, I guess. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We'll move on to the financial comparison. Our revenue, huge in 2023, due primarily to that large grant that we received from Healthy Aging Alberta in the new van that was ordered. Our expenses really stay in line, actually, when you take out that grant and look at all the other income that we had and working. Here's a further breakdown of how things look, and I couldn't get the graph to look any better because of that, just about that huge grant that we received. It made everything else look so minuscule when we were really proud of the other numbers and the increase. So it is what it is, right? It's good. That's a good thing, right? Lots of money is good. Our 2024 priorities are the development of our policies and procedures. This is huge. Rebranding, we will continue to do that. It usually takes about a year to transition from one brand to another, so we'll just continue with that. Implementation of our technology, we were super excited about that. Increase our revenue, of course. We take to heart that it's our responsibility to pound the pavement and make sure that we make you guys proud, and we do not rely solely on the Town of Edson grant funding that we receive. We want to look you in the eye and say we've tried our very best. Increase community awareness of moving Edson in areas. So that is a continual thing, and we will work really, really hard at that. And to promote our charter services. And our Trivia Night fundraiser. Okay, so this is the best slide coming up. So in honor of you guys allowing us to present tonight, tickets went on sale for our 2024 Trivia Night. May the 4th be with you at 7 p.m. tonight. So I really hope you all will be able to attend on May 4th. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Mitchell, for your presentation. And I imagine everybody will be there once again. I think we do have some Star Wars geeks here, so yeah.
So looking forward to it.
Council, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns for Ms. Mitchell? Counselor Chenard.
Through the mayor to Ms. Mitchell. Saturday and Sunday, are you finding, like you started in December, and now the people get more used to it, is ridership increasing a fair amount, or how's that going?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Councillor Chouinard, right? So, this is a really great story. Ridership is increasing. The more word spreads, we are getting busier and busier on the weekends. We have a wonderful little story that is still one of my favorites. We have a grandfather who called to ask if he could take his grandson to Dairy Queen. So he takes his grandson to Dairy Queen, and I said, yes, of course, because part of healthy aging is trying to connect community and keep families together and whatever makes it wholesome for you. So he takes his grandson to Dairy Queen. This is before Christmas. Little boy gets back on the bus. They're going to go back to Grandpa's place. And little boy's chatting away to the driver, and he says, and Grandpa said next weekend, because you're open next weekend, he's going to take me to Walmart, and we're going to buy presents for my mom and dad. So how fantastic is that we're able to offer that, right? And this grandfather is just prouder than punch that now he can be the grandfather he wants to be, right? His mobility challenges do not inhibit him anymore on the weekend, and he can spend time with his grandfather. So it was a long-winded way of answering your question, but I hope it did.
Counselor Chachka.
Thanks. Through the chair to our presenter, Ms. Dawn Mitchell. Thank you for your presentation. The work you guys did last year was phenomenal. My question is regarding the mobility van. I'm just kind of curious when it will arrive and if it has air conditioning.
Speaking from someone who has been on the bus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Councillor Chachka, right? So, knock on wood, the bus is still within the timeline that it's supposed to be. So, end of March, beginning of April. So, anytime. I'll be shouting it from the rooftops the minute it comes in. I promise you it will have air conditioning. It will be a comfortable ride. And it will have heat, because we sometimes do have a bit of issues with heat in the back of the bus, right? But yes, so this new bus, van, I should say, is just, it's going to be fabulous. It should be comfortable. Welcome.
Counselor Taylor.
Through the mayor to Ms. Mitchell, thank you so much for your presentation, and thank you for the work that you guys doing. I love the rebranding. Honestly, it fits perfectly within council's strategic plan of trying to be more inclusive and accessible to all. So thank you for doing that. And I kind of turned the clock back about 2.5 years, and I remember that the organization had come to us for a little more funding, and it was a different kind of time period. And I'm happy to hear right now you seem to come here tonight in a good spot, in a very good spot. So it's kind of what the vibe I'm getting, which is great. So with that, are you expecting any challenges over the next? What are your biggest challenges that you think you might face over the next year? Again, I turned the clock back to 2.5 years ago. It was a different type of presentation, and tonight very optimistic. So just wondering about challenges.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Councillor Taylor. So 2.5 years ago, a presentation was given, and council graciously agreed to a certain amount of grant funding for, at the time, ESTS. It is, the board has had conversations since then. It is very, very important to the board and I that I be able to sit here and look you all in the eye and say, that agreement was made in good faith. Everybody said, yeah, we think this will work. This is the right amount. So the board is, we are very committed to not coming back for more funding until that agreement is done. Do you know what I'm trying to say? There's that agreement was made with respect and in good faith, and so it's extremely important, again, that I be able to sit here each year and say to you, we did everything we could, right? So the challenges that we will face, they are no different than, I think, the challenges that any nonprofit faces. There's a lot of work that has to go into receiving the number of grants that we received to try to increase services, increase staff, do all the right things. So we do face those challenges. I don't know, like, knock on wood, all the grants that I've written so far this year, and will write a bunch more, they'll come through. So either way, good faith, we are positive and trying hard.
All right, thank you. Councillor Moore?
Through the mayor to Ms. Mitchell, do you plan any out-of-town trips this year? Excursions type of thing?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Councillor Moore. So when our new van arrives, so we always have our charters, right? Our private and our corporate charters, and we'll take you anywhere. That's a flat fee of $110 per hour, minimum of 3 hours. That being said, when our new van arrives, we will be offering, part of that grant funding is we will be offering subsidized medical services to Edmonton. So that is really exciting. Right now, would you like me to speak to how the medical?
Yeah, I think it's really important for you to talk about that, because that has been a topic that councils have spoken about before as a key priority for seniors trying to reach the city that may not have a means to get there for their medical appointments.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, as Mayor Zahara said, it's challenging right now for seniors to get from town into Edmonton for their medical services that they need. What we find quite often is, so we will take them to Tim Hortons, where they're picked up by Sundog, and then they pay a certain fee, and they're taken to West Edmonton Mall, and then they need to arrange their own transportation to get to their medical appointment. And they have to order a specialized van if they have mobility issues, or what that looks like, right? They go into their medical appointment. That transportation has to take them back to West Edmonton Mall. They have to wait for Sundog to come back and pick them up and bring them back to Edson. So as you can imagine, it's quite a costly day for them, and it's exhausting, right? So the stress and the worry about, am I going to make it to the right place? Am I going to call all the right people? Am I going to get lost? You know, it's very stressful. So we find that a lot of our seniors choose not to go to these very, very important doctor's appointments, specialist appointments. So with this new grant, or this grant funding, we will pick seniors up. So we'll have some sort of subsidized form, right? They will call in, they'll book. We will pick them up. So Moving Edson in an area offers door-through-door services, and that's really important to note. So we will go to their house, wherever they live, the place that's most appropriate for them. We will pick them up. We will drive them straight to their doctor's appointment and wait for them, and then take them straight back home, back to their door. It is also extremely important that we remember, when you're under stress and going to a doctor's appointment, you're in there and all this information is coming at you, and sometimes you can't remember everything that the doctor's telling you, and the next time you're supposed to come, and the things that you're supposed to do. So we would encourage a support person to go with them, and that person will ride for free. I think that's really important. So it's quite exciting, and I think we'll encourage our seniors to take that scary trip to Edmonton. You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Councillor Bevan?
Yeah, through the mayor to Ms. Mitchell there. I think one of the biggest thing is with this van being able to go to the city, and that is compared to Sundog, is they do not have any wheelchair accessible vehicles running to the city. So I know some of the seniors are trying to find other ways to get in if they can take their wheelchair. So I think with moving Edson here with the van, you may be able to get more people going into the city using our vehicles and that, which would be a really great thing. And I know I did talk to Sundog at one time, and for them to put something on with their big buses is way, way too high of a figure. But now we have the advantage here that we can do it for our seniors or anybody in in our community here, which is a great deal.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Councillor Bevan. Thank you for bringing that up. I forgot to make that point that, yes, a lot of times our seniors, aging adults are trying to call family members, and those family members are trying to take days off work, and perhaps they don't even have the right vehicle to take them in. So again, that's another reason they might not go to the appointments that are really, really necessary for good health, right? So thank you for reminding me of that point, yes.
All right, thank you. Council, any further questions, comments? Nothing, Councilor Posichny? All right. Thank you very much for your presentation and all the tremendous work over the last year. The drivers during the emergencies were phenomenal, and can't say enough about that. You mentioned EMS, you mentioned the medical trips into the city, and this has been a topic of discussion for a number of years as a challenge in our community. We had some grant funding from the province to look at ways to connect services. And speaking with EMS, we talk about EMS not being available in our community, and talking with some of the paramedics in town where they are called out to actually take seniors to the city for their medical appointments because there is nothing else available, which is not a good use of that resource, right? So I'm very happy to see us moving in that direction. Not everybody has family members or has the ability to access those appointments, and I really appreciate the work that your board has done in order to I would say leverage the municipal dollars that you're receiving to move the organization forward in a way to increase revenues through charters and things of that nature. And I think that's really important. We get really good bang for a dollar by providing the grant funds. We do not want running public transportation in Edson, because that will be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I thank you for taking on that work. And I think we all appreciate that, and taxpayers should be appreciative of that as well.
Thank you, Mayor Zahara. And to speak to your point about AHS and the ambulance services into Edmonton. So we have, during the 2023 wildfires, we were registered as one of the first calls. That actually last week just came up again, and they re-registered us to make sure that we're on the top of the list for exactly that purpose. So that we won't tie up ambulances, hopefully, and our services will be utilized, so we are registered there.
All right, well, thank you very much, and may the 4th be with you.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to presentation number 2, presented by Staff Sergeant Christian Delisle, talking about Edson RCMP 2024-2025 policing priorities. And Ms. Mitchell, you're free to stay for the entire meeting if you like, but we understand if you have other things you would like to do this evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Thank you very much for having me tonight. Yes, tonight I'm here to discuss policing priorities. February, March is the time of the year where we consult communities, elected officials, public at large on basically what they would like to see in terms of policing priorities for the upcoming fiscal year. So in my presentation today, I will present the current policing priorities and the results that we have so far, our current crime stats and trends, and from there, hopefully opening the floor to some discussions on what we would like to see for 24-25. So, last year for the 23-24 policing priorities, we had property theft, so basically our crime reduction priorities. Second one was policing, community relations, and the third one was an internal one called training. So if I look at the first one, property theft, crime reduction, so the goal that we've set for Edson was to reduce property crime by 5%, as well as complete 1,200 proactive patrols. The 1,200 proactive patrols are not only for Edson, they're for the entire area that we cover. So if we look at the results after 3 quarters, so basically those are the stats after December 31st, basically, right up to December 31st. So property crime, we saw a 14% reduction. So if you want to put this in calls for service, you were looking at 427 that would fall in that category for the previous year to 369 for this year, for the same time period, so 14% less. And then patrols, as of December 31st, we already had almost 1,400 patrols. 831 were completed just in the town of Edson. So during those patrols, we do school patrols, school visits. That's when we proactively arrest people on warrants, curfew check, traffic enforcement, things of that nature, patrolling hotspots, locations where we suspect that, the likelihood of criminality would be high, so we try to be present. The second priority that we had is policing community relations. We had one measure. It was to complete about 45 contact police visibility. And this is obviously other than being calls for service. So results after 3 quarters, 42 community contact completed. So we're talking about here the RCMP Bike Rodeo, patrolling the Jamboree, attending the Leap Day with our police vehicle, the Edson Car Show, ride-alongs with applicants for the RCMP, our presence during Canada Day, Remembrance Day, and things like this. And the last one is training. I call it internal because we have full control over this in a sense where we're trying to develop our members because we get new members on a regular basis, try to develop their skills, giving them abilities to be better investigators. And our goal was to get 10 courses taken by members. So after 3 quarters, 18 courses were taken. It's a mix of online and in-person. We're really striving to get more on in-person courses and training, but nowadays online is very popular. But we had members that attended the ATV training, surveillance, human sources, search warrant drafting, IARD. We have a member that just completed the farm instructor course. So on track again, we're at 18 courses. So if we look at the current stats from January to December 23rd, again, we can see a decrease from the previous year and from 5 years ago. So I'm not going to go in details with all the lines here, but if we look at what we call our persons crime, so if we compare with last year, we saw a 23% decrease in that category. Same thing if we look at property crime. If we compare with last year, we saw a decrease of 14%. The number that I would really want to point out here is 5 years ago, we're almost half the property crime that we saw 5 years ago. We're at minus 43%. So a great improvement in that category. And then the last one is what we call other criminal code. So if we compare with last year, we saw a 38% decrease in that categories. Any questions at this point in terms of crime trend and statistics? I went over them pretty quickly, but it's just to give us an idea so we can talk about what we would like to see next year.
Go ahead, Councillor Moore.
Through the mayor to Christian. I'm looking at the offenses related to death. How many of those were by criminal means through the years?
So if we look at those numbers, so the RCMP has to include, in order to reduce the categories and have a certain amount of categories, a lot of different offenses or calls for service that we go to have to be combined in one category. So offenses related to death covers a wide variety. I don't have them all in front of me. As we can see, we didn't have any in 2023. In 2021, we all remember the incident that happened at the sports store. Now, the number 7 for 2020, I did not look at every single one of them, but we could have anything that depending on the scoring that was used, could enter into that category. That's basically what it is.
Council, any further questions on the stats before Staff Sergeant Delisle moves ahead? I'm seeing none, so you can continue on, Christian.
Thank you. So the discussion on priorities, on policing priorities for 2024, 2025. So the RCMP is basically seeking your input. We are your police service, so we want to respond and answer your demands and your need for policing. So I've had the public town hall that I did earlier this year at the Friendship Center. We consulted elected officials. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the Yellowhead County presentation. One of my corporal did, and today I'm here and with you to discuss this. Before I go ahead, just to give you an idea of the public consultation, the topics that were coming up from the public were specifically related to property crime again, policing visibility, traffic, and drugs. It's in a nutshell, it's roughly the same thing that I hear and I see every year, and there's a reason for this. The landscape of the police work that we have to do here in Edson and area is roughly the same year after year. Since I've been here, I have not seen a drastic change in criminality or trends happening in the area. Therefore, that's why we kind of hear the same thing over and over. But then if that's what we need to address and if that's what we need to police, so be it. So this is where I'm at. Would like to hear about your suggestion. Are we looking at property crime, people crime, domestic violence, police community relationship, drugs? What would you like to see this year in terms of policing service?
All right, thank you. We will start with Councillor Pasichny.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the mayor to Staff Sergeant Delisle. I personally would think I'd like to see us focus on drugs.
Okay.
I know as a volunteer firefighter how often we're called out to assist for overdoses and such. And another area too is our fire bugs that we have in the community that hopefully don't start up again, but I don't believe we've nabbed the guys who like to start fires yet.
Okay, thank you. Yes. And thank you very much for that comment. And drug came up a few times. And so our effort in drugs in the past few years have probably not been where I wanted it to be. A few reasons for this. Staffing is one of them. And drug is, for the most part, proactive. There's not a lot of drug dealers that call saying, hey, I just sold drugs, so we have to find them, right? And there's not a lot of users also that are saying, hey, I'm using drugs and so sold it to me. So it's tedious work, and for staffing reasons, we probably did not put the time that I would have liked, but definitely I heard that from other forum, and I think it should be on our policing priorities this year. I agree.
Thank you for that, and it's interesting to note it was a year ago today that the arson happened here at Town Hall. So I think you make a valid point that last year we did see some challenges with that, and years previous as well, so that might be something, just to reiterate what Councillor Pasichny said, is something that we may need to look further at. We will move on to our next question. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to Staff Sergeant Delisle, thank you for your presentation. As always, I love seeing the community involvement, community relations. I think that speaks volumes as to why we've seen such a reduction, because our police are visible. They're not seen as the boogeyman or anything like that, but they're approachable. You've been in the schools numerous times, even in the school I work in. Yourself came in, talked to the grade 9s. We had Constable Amanda, can't remember her name, last name, came in and talked about cell phone use and internet safety with the students, which is ever so valuable. So that kind of work, I think, needs to continue, because I think there's a correlation between the community relation and the drop in the massive drop in crime we've seen. You did have domestic violence on here. So my question is, have you seen any concerns with domestic violence? Just looking at the stats, because that's not put in as a direct line. I assume it would be under maybe assault or things like that. Are we seeing a majority of assault be domestic related?
No, I cannot say that we saw an increase or a decrease. It's constantly present in the community. And here's the difficulty with this too, is if we want to address domestic violence, it's the big part in order to address this is education. It's not like it's a public place where we can patrol and prevent domestic violence. It happens in private homes. So then that would be a partnership with social agencies in order to a strong advocacy against it, and then of course having us engage when it's time to engage the police. No, I just put it in there. I could have put just person crimes, to be quite honest. I just decided to write domestic violence, but not because the statistics were showing that there was a need for this.
Councillor Chachka.
Thanks. Through the chair to Staff Sergeant Doyle. Thanks for coming forward and presenting this tonight. My question is regarding the priorities for next year. Are you aware of any prolific reoffenders that are going to be coming back to our community that might be released in 2024 that would maybe increase some of these stats in a way that maybe we could, jump on it before before they return?
So, no, top of my head, I am not aware of who would be returning to the community that could have an impact on the stats. But you are correct. There are some individuals that once they're back, they are prolific and drive the stats up. We are warned by correction services and probations as to when they come back into the community, where they reside and whatnot. So we are proactively doing exactly what you're saying. It's part of our patrol. It's part of our proactive policing part where, yes, so-and-so is a troublemaker. We'll make sure he remembers who we are.
Sure, go ahead if you want to queue yourself up. Go ahead, Councillor Chachka.
Thanks. One more question. Regarding the training, so last year it was set as a priority, and I imagine that it would still happen even if it wasn't a priority, but how much would it be reduced, knowing that everyone only has so much time during the day to accomplish these tasks?
So would it be reduced? Probably not. It's always something that we try to do. It's more an internal thing for us to kind of keep track of it and stay on top of it. Basically focusing on the RCMP send every week like a training summary of what's available. Of course, not every course is for general duty detachment like we have here, and not every members would need the course that are out on that certain week, but it's for us to basically stay on top of it. I would certainly like to see it again internally, so we are staying on top of it. That's how we get our police officers specialized and better at what they're doing. So personally, I think it's a good priority to have for us internally.
Thank you. Council, any further questions or comments for Staff Sergeant Delisle? Just a question through to you, Staff Sergeant Delisle. What is our staffing situation currently? How many officers, I might be putting you on the spot here, how many officers are we paying for currently? I know that staffing has been a challenge across the province, and that fortunately we've been in a pretty good position, but where are we currently?
So no, you're not putting me on the spot, Mr. Mayor. I was expecting the question, so I got the stats with me. So we are in a good situation considering. So currently, out of the 23 positions, I am talking provincial and town included, we have 19 positions that are filled. So it's considering other detachment, we're in a very good position. Currently, the corporal for the GIS, the General Investigation Section, is vacant. There's a staffing action on the go right now to fill that position. We have one corporal general duty, so call responder, that is on his way out. He's just waiting to sell his house, but we already have the replacement here, so we're kind of an extra corporal, if I can say, at the moment. We have one member who's what we call on a graduated return to work. He should be back full duties beginning of April. And then we have one person on mat leave, a second one to go on mat leave very shortly, and a third one who's on light duty. That's where we're at in terms of staffing. And when I'm talking support staff now, we're fully staffed on the municipal employee side. I am still short to public servant. We just completed a recruiting process. We identified one person. We still need to identify the second one. So staffing wise, at this point, we're in a good position, yes.
Okay, my second question is, we've seen a decrease in property crimes. How much of that do you attribute to the crew position that you established here, I think it's probably 2 years ago now? Yep. Has that been a successful project for the detachment?
Yes. So the crew position was successful. So and I'll backtrack a little bit. The success that we've seen for the last 4 years with property crime, it's a collaborative success. An example of this is we have less disturbance nuisance nowadays with some of the population that we deal with on a regular basis. And this is because we are working with the Friendship Center. We are working with Reflections. We are patrolling a little bit more proactively. And we've caught some that needed to go back to jail, and we have executed some search warrants, but we also had those social services that are helping. Sometimes we're wondering, if the pods were working and if the shelters are working. They are working because we have less people breaking into sheds and into abandoned buildings and whatnot. So the reduced property crime stats are the numbers that we're seeing right now. It's very collaborative effort. Community, police services, social services, that's basically what we're seeing. Now, was the crew position a great addition? Absolutely. It's that person that is not tied to the radio that was able to chase down those repeated prolific offenders. He was, we'll name him. It was Constable Trevor Fairweather. He was awesome at keeping track on who was on warrant, and he was basically at their doorstep the next day. They missed a court appearance, so he was good that way. He was the one that was, catching some people with drugs from time to time. Unfortunately, due to staffing, we had to move him back to the floor. Hopefully, soon we can reintroduce a person in that position and get those benefits again. So yes, I would say it was a success.
All right, thank you. So with staffing challenges, maybe some of the proactive stuff may not happen as much as well. I know you've worked really hard on the community engagement piece. I'd like to thank you as well for ensuring that for things like Canada Day, there was traffic control for the public, which has been always a concern for us, and you've been able to make that happen. I'm a little concerned moving into 2024 with the staffing situation, how proactive you're going to be able to be. What types of efforts are being made to ensure that education and that community involvement continues to happen so we don't lose on some of the success that you've been working on over the last number of years?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Certainly there's a bit of a succession planning that I'm trying to develop. So there's one reality. There's some members that are a lot more community inclined, and you don't have to tell them to do anything, and they come up with some ideas on how we can be involved in the community. There's some others you have to push them a little bit more, and some others it's really not their cup of tea. But I'm slowly trying to find those people that do want and would like to be more engaged with the community, because it's part of the success. The RCMP or any police service working in a silo won't be as effective as working with the community. So, and when we kind of pair this with staffing challenges. So the Edson detachment has been recognized by the RCMP as a busy location. And when I call staffing saying, hey, I have a member who's up for a transfer, they take this seriously, and I'm on the list of, okay, we'll look for a new cadet, we'll look for an experienced member. So I don't want to say we're on the priority list, but they know that they cannot leave too many vacancies here open for too long. So we have a good, so far I've been lucky to be able to get members when members are leaving. So that's basically where we're at with this.
Okay, thank you. Council, any further questions or comments? All right, well, once again, thank you very much for your presentation. I also want to note that unfortunately you will be leaving our community here in the next few months. We will do an appropriate send-off, but we do really appreciate all the effort and all the work that you have done here since arriving. It's been remarkable, and hopefully we'll see that with the new detachment commander, so thank you.
Thank you very much, and I will say it's with mixed feelings, but we'll, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, we have no reading of bylaws. Can I get a motion, please, that council deny the utility bill forgiveness request for account number 160114.04 presented at the March 5th, 2024 regular council meeting? Councilor Moore, would you like to make that motion?
I so move.
Thank you. And I think we have Mr. Barisco that's going to be presenting on this, or are you going to do that, Mr. Kitlitz?
Mr. Mayor, unless Mr. Briscoe has a hankering to come up here and talk about it, I can take this one forward.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward, Mr. Mayor. Council, as you mentioned, it's in response to a delegation on March 5th that council heard, where a resident asked for some forgiveness on the water consumption portion of his utility bill over a period of time. Not going to go through the details. The RFP is pretty self-explanatory. However, I did want to draw council attention to the last sentence in the first paragraph that states the meter reading system allows staff to track daily consumption, troubleshoot, and determine the cause of extra consumption. I should add a bit more context in there. To be clear, that's not an automated system. So that means that our operators don't get a ping on their phone or an email that says, hey, we got a meter here that's reading high. It's basically an anomaly when it's brought to our attention. We can go investigate after the fact. So there is technology that does allow that automated system. We don't have it yet, but certainly it's something that our staff are considering in the future in the interest of, well, for one, saving folks some high bills from time to time, but also for water conservation efforts. So just wanted to make sure it was clear that that's not an automated system, but it is something we can do when anomalies are found. So as the RFP suggests, Mr. Mayor, administration is recommending that a forgiveness of this account not be supported at this time.
All right, thank you, council, or thank you, Mr. Kitlitz. Council, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns about this? I'll just speak to this. I'm very empathetic when these things happen, having had that happen to me with my natural gas at one point. But at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own utilities. I would be interested in potentially waiving the late fees or the penalty charges for 6 months to allow this customer to pay without penalty, giving him some extra time to pay, considering how much money this bill is for this individual or any individual in our community. I think that's a way to do show some assistance and some empathy for these types of situations, but I do believe that we need to hold to our policy of not forgiving these fees in these cases. So, council, any further questions, comments, or concerns? See, go ahead, Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the mayor, were you looking for someone to make an amendment to the motion for that?
To me, I wouldn't be making an amendment to the motion, but maybe if somebody wants to put that motion on the floor so we can properly discuss that following this motion, unless administration has a better procedural way of doing it.
Mr. Mayor, I think that's an appropriate following this motion.
Okay, thank you. So with the motion that's on the floor to deny the utility forgiveness request, please vote now. And that motion is passed. Do we have anybody that would like to make an alternative motion? Go ahead, Councillor Chachka.
Thanks. With your permission, I would move that council waive the late fees on utility bill 160114-04 for a period of 6 months so that account number can pay their bill.
All right, thank you. Any comments, questions, or concerns about that? Go ahead, Councillor Bevan.
Through the mayor, I guess I was in here probably about 3 weeks ago, and then another gentleman came in and had the same problem. And when I left, he cornered me outside and asked me about this, and I told him he could come to us, procedure or whatever. So if we do this, does he have a right to come back and ask us to waive his fees for that too?
Excellent question, Councillor Bevan. I think if they do want to come to council, that's their prerogative. We could also maybe set something in policy if there is a bill of such a magnitude that a payment arrangement can be made. But in this particular case, this individual did come to council with his current situation. So that's my point of view. Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor, this could be to administration. Would then, are we working with the resident or administration work with the resident to set up some sort of payment plan to get sort of this paid off at some point? Is that sort of the direction of this or what we've done in the past? Yeah, question on that.
Go ahead, Mr. Kitlitz.
Mr. Mayor, I can take a stab at that. I'm really not the one to speak about how our utility count payments and billing works, but I think based on what I'm hearing from the motion is that penalties will be waived for 6 months, so we'll consult with our finance folks and make sure that that's taken care of, but I'm not quite sure how the system works. I can't really speak to whether a payment structure is done or how to be taken care of, but sorry, I don't have that information.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Go ahead, Mr. Kitlitz.
Mr. Mayor, I just thought it'd be thinking about Councillor Bevan's questions about other residents. One of the things I can share is that council is that you'll soon see us coming to council with a brand new utility rate bylaw, and that'd be a great spot for us to consider things like this and maybe some of that direction from council on how to deal with these accounts. So just a heads up that that's coming very shortly here in the next couple of months, so we can probably talk about that.
Thanks for that, Mr. Kitlitz. And when these presentations come forward, I sometimes feel like we are setting them up for failure because they believe that we may do this, and I have yet to see that happen in all my years just because of the fairness of trying to make sure we're consistent, and I think that's really important as well. So with that, if there is no further questions, comments, I will call the question. Please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Can I get a motion, please, that council approve the special events policy CS9 as presented? Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I so move.
Thank you, and we will hand this over to administration. I think Ms. Byers is coming up to present on this, Manager of Community Services. Welcome, Ms. Byers.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to have or to be bringing this policy back with just a few small tweaks, I guess, to the last draft that you saw a week ago. I'm also just going to quickly go through the presentation. I know Councillor Chouinard wasn't able to join us last week, and also for others in the gallery that weren't able to see it. I'm not going to read it line by line, but we'll just go through it fairly quickly here. Oops. Or not. Why am I having so much trouble with this? Sorry. This arrow? Okay, I was going down. All right, so as you all know, we are just working on this new special events policy, just wanting to, of course, promote special events in our community and just provide a better process in order to have organizers bring things forward for us and help us get through the process a little bit easier, and also ensure that they'll have a safe event for all involved. And so the enforceability, as noted last week, bylaw number 2025 does allow the town of Edson to enforce policy provisions that are within here. Some updates are required, but for the most part, it does cover it. And some of the policy highlights, council's role, again, we had moved it to only approving events that are longer than 5 days, and all other functions are assigned to administration. And the criteria with the special event permits required just takes into account event size, event risk, public and private, and effects on access and use of public spaces. The applicant's compliance requirements and responsibilities, those fall again within the bylaws that I've noted, and also now this policy that gives a little bit more information on how to apply. But I think one of the large conversations that we had last week was regarding insurance, and we were able to get some clarification on that. And through our provider, Alberta Munis, they definitely have indicated that having the town named as an additional insured, it is an industry standard and required by them. And we also talked to them about the portal just for ease of applications. And there's actually no cost to the town of Edson in order for our residents to use that portal. And once, I think that once 15 people, I think it is, actually use the portal, then they would create an actual Edson portal for special events. So, but until then, like, it's not required. But essentially we'll be able to provide the community with a link. It doesn't mean that they're going to have to use that. If they want to choose their own provider and use local, completely up to them, but we're just going to try to provide, you know, a little bit easier method of gaining that. And also with, I guess, an insurance company that fully understands this clause, and we'll be able to make it easily accessible to them. And so events not permitted on town land, there's been two small additions to it. And you can see that the last bullet, the last yellow bullet. So events that, in the opinion of the town, may harm the health, safety, welfare, or property of the special events attendees, town residents, or members of the public would not be permitted. And also, the town of Edson is not responsible for any costs incurred by the organizer in the event a special event is canceled or refused. So, you know, in the event that someone goes ahead and does some planning or books an act or something before they actually get their permit, and then they find out that it's, you know, not going to be approved, the town would not be responsible to pay for, you know, any costs that they may have incurred because of it. Same thing, if we were to have an evacuation the week that they're supposed to hold their event, the town would not be responsible to, you know, pay any costs that they'd incurred to that point. So those are just a couple of examples. And nothing really has changed in this regard. The approval process is the same. The CAO would approve 4 to 5 days, and then 1 to 3 days would be Community and Protective Services approval. And I guess with that, you have a motion in front of you, and I'm of course willing to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we will open the floor to any questions, comments, or concerns. Go ahead, Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the mayor to Ms. Byers. I did look at other large municipalities' event bylaws, and they all have the municipality being named. So and if you're pulling a permit for a special event, then people who show up have to have their own insurance and so forth. So I'm good on that now since the last meeting. But the one thing that caught my eye that I did notice in other bylaws, and we have it under definitions, and maybe I'm not understanding the definitions, because the definitions under section F, which says special event. Special event means an event taking place on public property, including but not limited to town parks, facilities, open spaces, trails, or roadways that meets one or more of the following criteria. And under that is section VI, requires a building permit for tent, stages, or other structures. Now, in the City of Edmonton's special events bylaw, it says there's a clause in their bylaw, and they have their own legal team, this is why I refer to theirs, where tents or stages will require a building permit. It's in their actual bylaw, it's not in their definitions. May require deemed under the development authority. For example, if I read it correctly, that would mean like our development office would say, okay, well, you're constructing a stage. You need a permit for that because you got to get a codes officer involved because you're putting a large amount of people on a stage. And the reason I'm asking questions is, for example, our fire department has a tent. It's an engineered tent. It's set up throughout this community all over the place. And because it says here involves putting up a tent, it's pretty vague in here, permit for tent. So what deems a requirement for a permit for a tent? Like, I know we set it up at the hospital once. The fire department goes and puts up. The town of Edson puts up tents at Canada Day. What determines requirements for a permit for a tent? And it's not identified in there. It's identified as under the definition. So it's not actually defined in this policy. So I'm kind of hung on that a bit.
All right. Who would like to answer that? Go ahead, Mr. Wagstaff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the mayor to Councillor Pisichny and Council. The way it's structured currently, we don't have to change any amendments if something changes in another bylaw with regards to whether it be land use that is regulating tents, stages, or other structures. So this is indicating you'll require a special event permit if you're having a tent that does require a permit, because not all tents do. And we didn't want to be citing in this policy something that might change in another policy or bylaw.
Thank you. Counselor Moore.
Through the mayor to Ms. Byers, when I look at the events not permitted on town land, I'm wondering about the yearly movie that we show in the park. If that's carefully vetted as to make sure it didn't have any of these things that are listed anyway.
Go ahead, Ms. Byers.
Through the mayor to Councillor Moore, that is an event, like a youth interagency event, like the movie in the park, and we, as the town, I guess, when we do run special events, we certainly follow all of these guidelines. Always have, really. So this, although we don't have to do to actually go through the permitting process as the town, we fully intend to actually do the applications, just more as to ensure that all the agencies and all the departments are aware that something is happening in the park, or it might require road closure, that sort of thing. But I'm not sure if that answers your question, but we definitely ensure that all of these criteria are met when we run an event. You're welcome.
Thank you. Council, any further questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to Ms. Byers, thank you for bringing this back so quickly, and thank you for the addition of the safety element. I think it's just an important element under things that are not permitted, right? And I think it's a no-brainer, really. And I just reiterate what I said towards last week, and that's ensuring that everything's simplified. Like, again, it's that place we can go online where user groups can simplify that form. It's click here, submit, right? You don't have to read 18 different policies. And I just reiterate that as an important element of passing this policy and ensuring that it's sort of easy to use, or the application process is easy to go through for the user groups. So those are my comments on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chenard.
Yes, through the mayor to Ms. Byers. I did question about the insurance, so I guess my other question would be, what would make somebody have to have insurance, $2 million liability? So if you're putting on a major event, but let's say if you're putting on a lemonade stand, so where it says insurance town of Edson, are they required to get to $2 million? Have we specified? I can't find that in there.
Go ahead, Ms. Byers.
Through the chair to Councillor Chenard, you may have noticed that there's also an explanation of events that do not require a special event permit, and so I would think like a lemonade stand would probably fit under that. Now, if it's on a larger scale and it's a large community event, obviously that's where you tip the scales on what a special event is. So ones that actually fall under that criteria are going to require the insurance. So I'll just give an example, like even block parties that are fairly small in nature and whatnot, like they probably aren't going to meet the criteria of a special event. And in circumstances like that, the town, I guess, somewhat takes on a bit of that liability, right? And just understanding that they're usually fairly low-key barbecues in a community, that sort of thing. So it doesn't really take it to that threshold. So I guess I'm not sure if that answers your question, but the threshold is really what pushes it to require the insurance.
You have a follow-up, Councillor Chenard?
Yeah. Yes, you've somewhat answered the question, and that's where I was a little confused on the threshold. Like there has to be common sense kicked into it, depending on the size. Could be a, so that's where I was just because I don't want to discourage special events in it. And so, thank you.
Councillor Chachka.
Thanks. Through the chair to Ms. Byers. Some of the concerns I've heard is that residents are a little bit concerned that that we have a list of events not permitted on town land and how that would come forward, and kind of worried that maybe things that we've accepted in the past aren't going to be allowed into the future. Can you elaborate a little bit if, I realize that you guys have had your own internal policies and we're trying to make an official policy that is more public. Can you elaborate a little bit on if you've had to reject other applicants in the past, or if you've or what your policy has been around this previously?
Good, Ms. Byers.
Through the chair to Councillor Kashka, At this point, we didn't have a policy to fall back on, right? So, I think getting these things in line is hopefully going to help people understand what is and isn't going to be permitted. I think that, understanding that there is a bit of concern around maybe some of the language, I have seen and heard those things as well publicly. And I think it was specifically like the false and misleading information one leaves things, subject to a bit of, I guess, one's perspective on things. But I guess my response to that would be that, administration making those decisions are, going to make those in good faith, right? So it's, we're here as public servants and we're not here to push, our ideologies or, what we agree, disagree sort of thing. This is really more designed for, to not allow things that are going to be very, hate-based and that they, as council had requested when we started this journey a year ago. So in the past, I don't remember ever turning one away. I know that there was maybe in the last event with the snow seekers, there was a few safety things I think that had to be ironed out, but overall I haven't in my 7 years seen any permits be rejected.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Wagstaff.
Okay, my apologies. Through the mayor to council, I would like to add just a couple of notes to that. It was touched on that in absence of policy, it allowed a vacuum to occur. This helps fill that vacuum. So that will provide some guidelines, both for staff and administration as well as the public. And the other key part to this is it does create an opportunity for us to use this framework to streamline the process and make it easier as a one-touch customer service for the public, to be able to make it an easier way to deal with the municipality and get their permit in so they can have a safe event and do that timely.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? I just wanted to note that we did receive, or at least I received, 3 written submissions with concerns on events not permitted on town land. And I certainly hear those concerns. As with any policy, we put policies in place to direct administration on what to do. We provide the governance, they implement those policies. As with any policy, when there is a concern that is brought forward from the community that interpretations may not be followed or not be clearly understood, the public has the ability to come to council and bring those concerns forward. And sometimes we bring those forward to a formal council meeting for a resolution. Snow clearing is a perfect example of that, where we have a policy in place, but we cannot create policies that account for every type of situation. And so if there is a concern with interpretations, members of council are available to hear those concerns. And council often reaches out to administration if there is maybe a conflict of the decision that was made. This policy was brought forward as requested by council. This was not driven by administration because we felt the need to streamline things and make things clear for what was happening in our community. And at the end of the day, as a part of our strategic plan, we want to be safe and inclusive, and it also talks about building community and talks about ensuring that we have gatherings and we are using our public spaces, and we've been investing in our public spaces to create those opportunities. So I'm comfortable with this policy. If there is a situation that does occur, we may have to relook at it at a future date. That's always the purview of council to bring those things forward. It's written in here that there will be regular reviews, but if something drastic happens and we can't find a solution, then obviously we can bring those forward. But we also want to ensure that we are not allowing things that could cause harm. We've seen in other municipalities where people are bringing weapons to events and things of that nature, and we can't allow those things to occur. This doesn't stop things from happening in private properties or out in private halls or whatever. People will still have the opportunity to do that. So I'm certainly in support of this policy and certainly understood the concerns that were brought forward. And I do thank the members of the public that did reach out directly with their concerns. So Council, do you have any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I will call the question. Please vote now. Oh, do you have a question? Okay, queue up there. Go ahead, Councillor Bevan.
Yeah, I just jogged my memory here from the mayor to Ms. Byers there. As you said about a block party here, is there any kind of special things that, I know right now there is at least 3 businesses would like to put on a block party. Is there anything special they have to do? I mean, they're gonna have to come and see you. Now, it is a block party, but it could turn into a bigger block party than what we're used to when we have our neighbors come on a block party and do everything like that. Is there something else that they're gonna maybe have to jump through?
Through the mayor to Councillor Bevan, we've had those requests in the past because the block party program does have a grant attached to it, and unfortunately, we're not able to, I guess, encompass companies in downtown and that sort of thing under the block party policy because it's meant for neighborhoods, and it just doesn't fit the criteria. So essentially, they can call it a downtown block party, but if it meets the criteria of special events and needing a road closure means that it would. This is the process they would go through.
Go ahead, Councillor Bevan.
Follow-up is, it wouldn't be downtown, but it'd be off on a side street, 3 or 4 blocks off of Main Street, is what they're probably looking at.
Go ahead, Ms. Byers.
Sorry, through the mayor to Councillor Bevan, it still wouldn't meet the criteria, like, because it's meant for neighboring, like for actual residential neighboring. And so, I mean, in the future, if that's something that council is interested in, is somehow expanding that to businesses or to public, it's something that we could explore, because I've certainly, I've certainly heard others ask for that. But at the same time, we do downtown art walk and, other events as well. And we're willing to work with anyone, I guess, who wants to put on a community event, because the more the better. The more people that we have spearheading these things, the less that we're doing, right? And we're just always really happy when the grassroots come forward and make our community better.
All right, thank you. No other further questions, comments? Then I will call the question. Please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Byers, for all your work on this. Can I get a motion, please, that council approve up to a maximum of $180,000 adjustment to the capital budget to complete the Edson District Leisure Center fire alarm system upgrade funded from the revenue sharing reserve? Go ahead, Councillor Chachka.
I so move.
Thank you. And we have Ms. Vicky Bird, our recreation manager, coming up today to speak to this. Is this your first presentation with us? Okay, well, welcome. Just hit the button there. Perfect.
Of course. This is my first presentation, so thank you. And bear with me just as I shake off some nerves here. I've been told that you're not scary. Depends. How are we feeling tonight? Not so scary? All right. So good evening, esteemed members of Town Council. Today I, with a few jokes in the intro, but I do bring before you an urgent matter concerning the Edson District Leisure Center fire alarm system. Before we delve into the details, let's first understand the background of kind of what's transpired in the last little while since I've started, to be honest. Recent inspections of our fire alarm system have unveiled major deficiencies that require immediate attention. These include issues with connectivity, device compliance, and the need for system updates. The urgency of our situation cannot be overstated. Without prompt repairs, there's a risk of, oh, there we go. There's a risk of facility closure. Our compliance with the National Fire Code mandates continuous monitoring through a fire watch protocol until our system is compliant and fully functional again. And kind of just to expand on what a fire watch protocol is it's a 24-hour mandatory surveillance. So we have a person walking around our facility, checking all of the rooms, all of the storage areas, and everything within our facility, checking for fire and other emergencies. Just to expand on that for you. As we speak, our administration has been proactive in addressing the situation. We've initiated a competitive bidding process, collaborated closely with contractors and fire inspectors, and secured contracts for fire watch services. The fire alarm system upgrade, estimated at $180,000, is a crucial step towards ensuring compliance with safety codes. We have taken the YCE renovations into consideration as well, so integrated seamlessly with that project. It not only reduces our completion time, but also minimizes costs associated with the manual fire watch protocol that we are in currently. Despite these challenges, we are committed to maintaining normal operations as close to normal as possible. We've ensured transparency by posting updates throughout the facility and also communicating with our patrons and our stakeholders. Moving forward, our next steps are pretty clear. We must proceed with the upgrade to the fire alarm system. And we also have to continue our fire watch until our system is fully operational and compliant with the codes. Our goal is to expedite this process while ensuring quality and safety. Before I just conclude my presentation, I'd like to open the floor for any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Ms. Bird, for your presentation. Go ahead, Councillor Chenard.
Hi, yes, thank you for the presentation through the mayor. How long will it take to install the system if we get to go ahead? Because you said you went out to tender, so if we were successful, what's the timeline estimate to make the system up and running?
So the timeline, through the mayor to Councillor Chenard, the timeline that we anticipate with the company that we are currently speaking with, we're looking at about 6 weeks to 2 months from the start of when we signed the agreement and moving forward with the project.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to Ms. Bird, thank you for bringing this forward. I'm going to be honest. When I first received notice of this, I was extremely disappointed that this was going on in our facility. And it's hard to say that with sort of newer members of administration here, but it has to be said that it is disappointing that we had a facility that was extraordinarily dangerous. And I think you alluded to that in your presentation, that it can't be understated that this was emergent. And to know how many, I have to speak on behalf of residents and user groups, thank God nothing occurred, that anyone was hurt, but this was very, very disappointing. So with that, 2 questions. The first question is, this obviously occurred, and we maybe, if we could look at that and evaluate that, but moving forward, how are we avoiding that these types of checks and balances are going to take place? Whether it's extra training, extra eyes on the reports, like what are we doing? How are we changing our practices to ensure that this type of thing doesn't happen again? Mm-hmm. That's my first question.
Through the mayor to Councillor Taylor. Thank you. I'm really glad you did bring this up. This is an area that I'm pretty passionate about, and it's that preventative maintenance and being proactive. So the plan moving forward is to have these some of the proactive measures that we have are regular maintenance, advanced monitoring, including staff training for that long-term reliability. So moving forward, there will be more documentation. There'll be systems in place that would catch these things. They wouldn't go this long without being addressed. And kind of the way, I don't want to say a passion project, but mine is preventative maintenance. I realize recreation and rec centers are things that are quite costly to the community and to organizations. So we want to maintain them as best we can in a proactive manner.
Thank you, Councillor Trustin.
Thanks. Through the mayor to administration. Thank you, Ms. Bird, for your presentation. And I too like being proactive, so this is wonderful news. My question is regarding the funding. I know the leisure center is something that is a cost-shared facility, and I'm just wondering how this works with the budgets, and if we've talked to our partners at the county, and if this is something that requires a conversation with them. I'm just looking for some feedback on that, please.
And are you going? I'll try. Through the mayor to Councillor Chachka. Thank you very much for that question. We have chosen the sorry, I want to make sure I'm saying this correctly. The revenue sharing reserve for that very reason. Because it fits within that policy involving that reserve. Do you need to expand a bit more? Sure.
Through the mayor to all of council. Further to that, yes, our colleagues with the Yellowhead County have been abreast of what we're doing and our attempts to move forward to correct and repair. So we have informed them that we have informed Yellowhead County that there is going to be some changes with regards to what we had provided for them previously with regards to budgeting.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to Ms. Bird, thank you for looking at the preventative measures and addressing the question earlier. Within these, and this was my follow-up question to that, within these sort of actions going forward, would this be placed into an operational policy or have to be readjusted on that front, or is it just going to be made as a best practice moving forward?
Through the mayor to Councillor Taylor, thank you again for the follow-up question. At this time, it would be just best practices, but that's something we can definitely look at and move into policy. And if Mr. Wagstaff has more to say, please go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Wagstaff, and I won't turn you off this time.
Again, through the mayor to all of council, in addition to that, one of the things that we're doing is taking a full review. That was in progress anyway prior to this, to see what practices we're using in all of the areas, and what things we can formalize more, not necessarily in policy, but in our standard operating procedures.
Thank you. Council, go ahead. Councillor Bevan.
Through the mayor to either Mr. Wagstaff or Ms. Vicky. How often will we be testing our systems up there? Is it going to be just once a year, twice a year? And then if we're doing that, are we going to be doing the rest of our buildings here ourselves?
Through the mayor to Councillor Bevan, I can speak towards the leisure center, but it is something that we do test annually. And moving forward, we will continue to uphold that schedule.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll move to Councillor Moore.
Through the mayor to Ms. Bird. So in non-operational hours, we have a person or a person who is continuing to patrol the area within the building, looking for obvious emergencies and such.
Yes. Through the mayor to Councillor Moore. Yes, that is correct. We do have someone. It is mandated that whether our facility is open or closed, we do have to have a 24-hour fire watch.
Thank you. Council, any further questions, comments, or concerns? Likewise, with the comments here, was very concerning to hear about this and to be advised of this. But I do thank our staff for being thorough. When they thought there was an issue, they investigated it, and despite how challenging it is, it's being dealt with appropriately. It's a little concerning that this wasn't caught sooner, but I'm very thankful for the staff that did do this and have done their due diligence. And I know there'll be a lot more discussion around this moving forward. And keeping our facility open, that's the key thing here. Administration had to make some pretty quick decisions in terms of getting people in place to keep things operating. I was concerned that with our plans with YCE, how this is going to integrate. So I'm glad that the time is being taken to ensure that whatever we do there hopefully will integrate with the future renovations within the facility. So appreciate that. So council, any further questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I will call the question. Please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Bird, for your presentation. We have no information items, no sundry items, council committee reports, and we are going back to March the 6th. And we will start today with Councillor Chachka.
Okay, thank you. I was away at the last meeting, so I'll just back up just a week prior. On March 19th, I had, oh no, wait, never mind, sorry. February 22nd, the RCMP Town Hall. February 27th was the YCE Multiplex Steering Committee meeting. February 29th, I had a Community Futures West Yellowhead Investment Review Committee meeting, and on March 12th, the Committee of the Whole meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Chachka, and we will go to Councillor Bevan. Oh, hang on. Where are we here? There we go. Councillor Bevan.
March 12th, Committee of the Whole. March 14th, we had a Yellowhead Synergy meeting. We had the Trevor Pratt from Alberta Forestry come out. The topic was on Alberta wildfires, wildfire priorities, fire weather index, resources Alberta available for 2023, and ways to help reduce wildfire hazards at your workplace. He gave about an hour and a half little presentation on it, which was really good. He showed the whole map of Alberta and what was happening around it and what they kind of expecting, and they're gearing up for this spring and summer season here in that, which they have, I think he has 61 fires still burning right now and that. And when he showed the map, it showed Edson there, and Edson was a clear little dot in there. That was the only place in Alberta that wasn't really impacted by any bigger significant fires right now. So it was kind of nice to see that, but the rest of Alberta didn't look all that great, eh? So it was a very good presentation in that, and he was based out of Rocky Mountain House. And he showed a lot of pictures and that, and it was just devastating what went on through Alberta, Yellowhead County, and we're thankful that nothing ever happened in Edson here, and we didn't lose any people or stuff like that. And just have to give a shout out to Tanya Byer here for letting us use your Griffiths Park Center. Carol Kine was really happy about that, and it's a really beautiful place, and she hopes she can get back to you. So that is my report.
Thank you, Councillor Bevan, and we will go to Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Council committee meeting on March the 12th. March 15th, I had the privilege of participating at the Rodfather grand opening, ribbon cutting, and it's going to be a very, very very busy business in town and area. And gee whiz, I got to hold the scissors, actually hold the scissors, and I got a real feeling of power. March 17th, on a Sunday, this past Sunday, Edson and District Historical Society held a operational planning meeting, and it was a very informative meeting. Lots of great plans coming up for improvement and community participation in this very, very important organization. So it was very productive. Thank you.
Are you guys dressed in green?
Thank you, Councillor Moore, and we will go to Councillor Chouinard.
Okay, well, I attended the Seniors Transportation AGM as public at large. I always do for information. What's that? Well, I was important, so I attended it. Okay, so on March 8th, Trans-Canada Highway Zoom meeting, we discussed membership, our engagement with Aboriginal tourism, and the other one too is we're lobbying for more with charging stations and advertise where they're all going to be. And then from March 10th to 13th, I attended ASHA in Calgary. Lots of very interesting courses. So unlike that, so, you know, I attended the ones on emergency. When you have a fire, what do you do? Then also attended one on the seniors and their mental health was another interesting one. And then the one was no surprise. It says getting ready for the amount of seniors to come in. So very interesting convention. About 350 people attended. So I did learn, being new, I learned a lot of information. And then March 15th, I haven't had enough of the Evergreen guys, so we went to Hinton and we started our budget meetings and finalizing stuff. So once I do get the one from Evergreen's meeting, I'll forward it to you, and that's it for my report.
Thank you, Councillor Chouinard. And we'll move on to Councillor Taylor.
On March 12th, Committee of the Whole meeting, and on March 15th, I attended the ribbon cutting for the Rodfather Phoenix business. It was always great to see a former student, Greg Hagan, working there and organizing things. And like Councillor Moore said, it's going to be a very busy business in town. So that's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Pasichny.
Yes, on March the 7th, I attended the formerly known the ESTS, but the Moving Edson and Area AGM and General Meeting. I do want to announce that our chairperson remained the same, and that's Ms. Gomolka, who's with us today. And the board had very little changeover, so nice stability there as well. And I'm excited to be partaking in that organization as a council rep. On the 12th, I attended our Committee of the Whole meeting. I also got to attend the Rodfather grand opening in town here. And on today, I had a brief meeting at the Chamber of Commerce.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Pasichny. And I believe their AGM is tomorrow.
The AGM is tomorrow, yes.
All right. For my report, Committee of the Whole on the 12th, on March 14th and 15th, attended the Municipal Leaders Caucus hosted by Alberta Municipalities. Really great presentation on the drought conditions in the province. Not a great presentation, but a good presentation with information. And pretty scary pictures from southern Alberta. Some of the reservoirs, our region doesn't look like it's going to be impacted as greatly as southern Alberta, but we have immense challenges in the year ahead and years ahead. This likely will be a multi-year drought unless we get some significant precipitation here in the spring. So I know that our administration's working on our plans for drought as well, because we need to be very in tune to what's going on, because we are going to probably have to restrict water usage. So that was scary. And then lots of talk, of course, about in the presentations as well as about wildfire and emergency situations this spring. Also, presentation on the current situation in municipal politics and the impacts it's having on elected officials. This is the first event that I've been to in all my years on council where I've talked to a lot of elected officials that I think probably are not going to be running again. Because of personal attacks and attacks against their families, and that's unfortunate. I hope that we raise the level of decorum. We can certainly share our viewpoints in a respectful way, even if we may disagree. Nobody should be personally attacked for their views. Speeches for Municipal Affairs Minister McIver, as you guys probably have seen. about the political parties in municipal politics. He did say that nobody will be required to be align themselves with a political party. He also said they will not be allowed to be linked to any provincial or federal party. And the Premier spoke later, alluding to the fact that it might be just a pilot project for larger municipalities. Obviously, a little different in smaller municipalities. Also discussion about code of conduct and the need for an integrity commissioner. That was a key point brought up with the minister, and how those processes work and recall legislation, all that sort of stuff. So some really good discussion there. Leader of opposition also presented. And then we had 14 ministers in a parapet Friday morning. Everything from FCSS funding, infrastructure funding, education, health, mental health, and housing. So a lot of the topics that we continue to talk about. There's never enough money for all the things that we need. And then on March, on the evening of the 14th, attended a little get-together with the town of Whitecourt and our MLA. And happy to report that today the MLA brought forward Highway 16 in the House as a need for investment into, which the Transportation Minister addressed. And then March 15th, attended the Community Rail Advocacy Association. I sent out the review to council. Much progress is being made. They are going to be providing monthly reports, which we'll include in our agenda packages going forward. CN has been absolutely fantastic in dialoguing with us, and we have seen improvements into the rail system over the last number of months, and that advocacy will continue. That is my report. And we have no financial items. Questions for media and public regarding items from this council meeting? All right. Do we have anybody online? Sounds good. Before we make a motion to go into closed session, I'm just going to call a quick 10-minute recess. Thank you. Thank you for that recess. Can I get a motion, please, that the meeting move into a closed session pursuant to Section 24 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act? Go ahead, Councillor Moore.
I so move.
Thank you. All those in favor, please vote now. It's not passed yet. Councillor Moore, if you just want to indicate. Thank you. That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Can I get a motion for adjournment, please, from somebody around the council table?
Green light's on.
Councillor Chenard.
I'll make a motion for adjournment.
We missed you last week.
Well, see, then I skipped one.
All right, and please vote now.
Had to hit yellow.
And that motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much.